Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the studio. You're tuning in to Episode 1 of Module 3 of the Blueprint for Effortless English. I'm your co-host, Ben.
And I'm Anna. Welcome back, everyone. This is a massive day. We're officially crossing the threshold into the second half of our 50-episode journey. We're kicking off Module 3 today, and the energy in the community is just electric.
It truly is. We've spent the first 20 episodes completely tearing down and rebuilding how you approach the English language. In Module 1, we tackled the mental shift. We broke the translation trap, threw away the grammar textbooks, and showed you how to embrace the good enough rule.
Then, in Module 2, we took you through the physical shift. We called it Mastering the Music. You learned how to use sentence stress, the schwa, connected speech, and consonant clusters. You built the physical muscle memory to actually ride the river of fluency.
So now that your mindset is right and your mouth is moving to the correct rhythm, it's time to focus on what you're actually saying. Welcome to Module 3, which we call the Conversational Engine. This module's all about building your social toolkit.
Modules 1 and 2 were about building the car and tuning the engine. Module 3 is about how to drive that car in heavy, real-world traffic. We're going to teach you how to tell stories, how to navigate small talk, how to interrupt politely, and how to express your complex opinions naturally.
But before we get into deep storytelling or debates, we have to start with the glue that holds all natural conversation together. Today, in Episode 1, we're talking about filler words for fluency.
Now, before we get started, we have a quick favor to ask. If you're excited to build your conversational toolkit and you've been enjoying this blueprint so far, please hit that like button and subscribe to the English Chatcast channel.
It's the best way to support the show and help us reach more learners who are struggling to sound natural in social situations. Thank you so much for being here with us.
Okay, Ben, I know we have some very confused listeners right now. We need to address the elephant in the room immediately.
I know exactly what you're talking about. In Module 2, Episode 5, we dedicated an entire lesson to the power of the pause. We told our listeners to stop using filler words. We told them to replace their nervous noises with silent pauses.
We did. We told you that saying and makes you sound nervous and unprepared. And now, the very first episode of our conversational module is actively encouraging you to use filler words. It sounds like a total contradiction.
It really does, but the key difference here is the type of filler word we're talking about. There's a massive difference between a nervous, non-lexical filler noise and a strategic lexical filler word.
That's the perfect way to divide them. A non-lexical noise is a sound like or ah. It isn't a real word. It doesn't have a spelling. It's just the sound of your brain buffering because you're panicked and you forgot your vocabulary.
Those are the noises we want you to eliminate. Those are the noises you replace with a confident, silent pause. But lexical filler words are entirely different. These are actual, real dictionary words. Words like well, right, like, basically, actually, and phrases like you know or I mean.
Native speakers use these lexical fillers constantly. We use them in almost every single sentence we speak in a casual setting. And we don't use them because we're nervous or because we forgot our words. We use them strategically.
We use them to soften our statements, to show empathy, to buy a tiny fraction of a second to organize our thoughts, and most importantly, to signal our intentions to the listener.
If you remove all of these filler words from your speech, you might be grammatically perfect, but you're going to sound incredibly abrasive. You'll sound like a robot reading a news report, not a human being having a conversation.
Let's do a quick demonstration to show you the difference. Anna, I'm going to ask you a simple question, and I want you to answer it with 0 filler words, just straight, grammatically perfect English.
Ready.
Anna, what did you think of that new sci-fi movie we watched last night?
I did not enjoy the movie. The plot was confusing. The acting was poor. I would not recommend it.
Wow, okay, that felt incredibly aggressive. It felt like you were reading a military briefing. Now, answer the exact same question with the exact same core meaning, but inject some natural filler words.
Well, to be honest, I didn't really enjoy the movie. I mean, the plot was kind of confusing and, the acting was just poor. So, yeah, I wouldn't recommend it.
The difference is night and day. The second version is completely relaxed. It feels like a genuine social interaction. The filler words acted like a cushion around your negative opinion.
Exactly. They softened the blow. So today, we're going to give you the core inventory of native filler words. We want you to start actively injecting these into your speech to instantly sound more native.
Well, let's start with the king of all filler words, the word well.
Well is incredibly versatile, but its primary function as a filler word is to act as a transition. It signals to the listener that you're about to start speaking, but you're still formulating your exact response.
It's the perfect word to put at the very beginning of a sentence. If someone asks you a complicated question, you don't want to just start spitting out facts instantly. It feels unnatural. You want to take a breath, say, well, and then launch into your answer.
Think about if someone asks you, "How was your weekend?" If you just say, "It was good, I went to the store," it's very abrupt. But if you say, "Well, it was pretty good, I went to the store," you've given the conversation a smooth on-ramp.
We also use well to signal a slight disagreement or a pivot in the conversation. If Anna says to me, "I think we should paint the room blue," I could say, "I don't think that's a good idea," but that's harsh.
So instead, Ben would say, "Well, I'm not sure blue is the best color for this room." The word "well" acts as a tiny warning flag to my brain that a disagreement is coming. It prepares me emotionally for the pivot.
Our second essential filler is the phrase, "I mean." This is one of my personal favorites.
I mean, native speakers use it all the time. Technically, it means you're about to clarify something you just said. But in natural conversation, it's mostly used to soften an opinion or to justify a statement.
Right. Let's say I want to skip a party because I'm tired. I could say, "I am not going to the party. I am tired."
Again, very robotic and cold. But if you use I mean, you add a layer of human justification. I'm not going to the party. I mean, I've been working all week and I'm just exhausted.
It makes your statement sound much more reasonable. It's like you're inviting the listener to understand your perspective.
You can also use "I mean" to correct yourself mid-sentence. This ties perfectly back to the good enough rule from Module 1. When you realize you're going down the wrong vocabulary path, you don't panic. You just say, "I mean," and you pivot.
I went to the restaurant on Wednesday. It's a verbal eraser. It tells the listener, ignore that last word, here's the correct one. It's so much smoother than stopping, apologizing, and starting the whole sentence over again.
Next up on our list is the phrase "you know." This is a massive one for building social rapport.
When we use "you know" as a filler, we aren't actually asking if the other person has the factual knowledge in their brain. We're using it to check for emotional alignment. We're asking, "Do you understand how I feel?"
If I'm complaining about traffic, I might say, "It took me 2 hours to get home today." I don't care if Ben literally knows the route I drove. I'm asking him to share my frustration.
And as the listener, I would nod and say, "Yeah, totally." The phrase "you know" builds a bridge between the speaker and the listener. It makes the conversation feel collaborative instead of just one person lecturing the other.
It's a highly inclusive filler phrase. It constantly invites the listener to stay engaged in the narrative.
Now, Anna, we have to tackle the most famous and sometimes the most controversial filler word in the English language.
Oh, I know exactly which one you're talking about. Growing up in California, this word was basically my entire vocabulary in high school. We have to talk about the word like.
The stereotype is the California surfer or the valley girl saying like every other word. Like, oh my gosh, it was like totally crazy. But the reality is that the filler word like has completely taken over the English-speaking world. Everyone uses it now. Back in Colorado, we used it just as much.
It's true. It's crossed all regional boundaries. And despite what strict grammar teachers might tell you, you need to understand how to use like if you want to sound natural. It serves three incredibly important functions.
The first function is approximation. We use like when we don't want to commit to an exact number or an exact fact. It means approximately or around. Instead of saying, the concert starts at 8 o'clock, which sounds very rigid and formal, a native speaker will say, the concert starts at like 8 o'clock.
There were like 50 people there. It cost like $20. It's a safety net. It protects you from being accused of lying if the real number was actually 48 people or $22.
The second function of like is to introduce a quote or a thought. In formal written English, you use the word said. John said he was hungry.
But in casual spoken English, younger generations especially use the word like instead of said. John was like, I'm hungry, and I was like, let's go get pizza.
It allows you to act out the story. When you say, I was like, you're usually going to change your intonation and mimic the emotion of the moment. It makes your storytelling much more dynamic.
And the third function of like is simply as a pure rhythmic pause. It functions exactly the same as well or but it's a real word. It buys you time to search for your next thought.
I was walking down the street and I saw this massive dog. The word like gives your brain a microsecond to retrieve the adjective massive.
Now, a quick warning about like. While it's incredibly common, it is also the easiest filler word to abuse. If you use it 3 times in one sentence, you start to sound a bit immature or uneducated.
Right. You don't want to say, I was walking down the street and I saw this dog. It completely destroys your sentence stress and your flow. Use it as a tool, not a crutch. Sprinkle it in gently.
Let's look at a few more advanced filler words. Words like actually and basically.
Actually is a great tool for gently correcting someone or presenting a surprising fact. If someone says, I heard it rains every day in Seattle, you don't want to just say, no, it doesn't.
That's too blunt, so you soften it. You say, actually, the summers are incredibly dry. It turns a direct contradiction into a friendly addition of information.
Basically is used to summarize a complex situation. If someone asks you to explain the plot of a 3-hour movie, you don't want to give them every detail.
You start your sentence with basically to let them know you're giving them the short version. Basically, they have to throw a ring into a volcano to save the world. It frames the context for the listener.
So we have, actually, and basically. These are the tools in your new social tool belt.
The challenge for English learners is that your native language has its own unique set of filler words. Every language has them, and the instinct is to just translate your native filler words directly into English.
But that rarely works. For example, Spanish speakers often use the word este as a filler when they're thinking. If you literally translate that to this in English, and you start saying this while you're pausing, native speakers will be completely confused. They'll be looking around wondering what this you're talking about.
French speakers might use Japanese speakers might use eto or ano. You have to actively suppress your native filler noises and consciously replace them with English lexical fillers.
This ties right back into the shadowing exercises we did in Module 2. When you're shadowing a native speaker, don't just focus on their heavy content words. Pay close attention to their filler words.
Integrating filler words is the fastest way to bridge the gap between intermediate and advanced fluency. It's the difference between sounding like a textbook and sounding like a native.
But you have to practice them physically. You can't just memorize the list. You have to get your mouth comfortable saying the word well at the start of a sentence before your brain has even decided what the rest of the sentence is going to be.
That requires a leap of faith. It requires trusting your conversational flow.
Which brings us to your mission for Episode 1. We want you to start auditing the conversations around you.
Your homework for this week is the filler word audit. I want you to go to YouTube and find a casual, unscripted interview, a late-night talk show clip, or a podcast between two comedians or actors.
Don't pick a news broadcast or a prepared speech. Find a real, messy conversation. I want you to listen to 5 minutes of it with a notebook in your hand.
Every time you hear the speaker use well, or like as a filler word, I want you to make a tally mark on your paper.
You're going to be absolutely shocked by how many marks you make. You'll realize that the native speakers you admire aren't speaking in perfect, unbroken grammatical sentences. They're stitching their thoughts together with these filler words.
After you finish your 5-minute audit, count up your tally marks. Come down into the comments section of this episode and report your findings to the community.
Tell us what video you watched, and tell us which filler word the speaker used the most. Was it an I mean guy or a you know girl?
Becoming aware of how native speakers actually talk is the first step to talking like them. Once your ears are tuned to hear these fillers, your mouth will naturally start wanting to use them.
It's an incredible shift in perspective. You're giving yourself permission to be a little bit messy, because messy is natural. Messy is human.
You're doing fantastic work. We've officially opened up the Conversational Toolkit, and you've got your first set of tools.
In our next episode, Episode 2, we're going to tackle a topic that fills a lot of learners with absolute dread. We're going to talk about essential social small talk.
We're going to show you how to survive those awkward elevator rides, how to navigate office break rooms, and how to get past the generic "how are you" without freezing up.
We'll give you a highly structured framework for making small talk painless and actually enjoyable. You definitely won't want to miss it.
But for today, focus on the glue. Swap out your nervous ums and uhs for a confident well or I mean. Give your English a little bit of natural cushion.
I'm Ben.
And I'm Anna.
If you found this breakdown of filler words helpful, please like this video and subscribe to the channel. Let's build that social toolkit together.
Until next time, keep practicing, keep listening, and remember, learning English with us is
a piece of cake. Thanks for listening, everyone. See you next time on the English Chatcast.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the studio. You're tuning in to Episode 2 of Module 2 of the Blueprint for Effortless English. I'm your co-host, Ben.
And I'm Anna. Welcome back, everyone. We're officially rolling through Module 3, our Conversational Engine phase, and the feedback from our last episode has been absolutely amazing.
It really has. In Episode 1, we gave you permission to be a little bit messy. We talked about using lexical filler words like, well, and like to soften your English and make you sound human instead of like a textbook.
You guys really embraced the messiness. Reading your comments about doing the filler word audit on YouTube was hilarious. Once you hear how many times native speakers actually say the word like, you can never unhear it.
It completely shatters the illusion of perfect grammar. But that's exactly what we want. We want to tear down the robotic habits and build up natural fluency. And today, we're taking those filler words and we're putting them to the ultimate test.
We're tackling a topic that strikes fear into the hearts of almost every English learner on the planet. We're talking about essential social small talk.
Before we dive into the deep end of the shallow conversations, we've got our usual small favor to ask. If you're finding value in this 50-episode journey and you want to support the show, please hit that like button and subscribe to the English Chatcast channel.
Your support is what keeps this channel growing, and it tells the algorithm to share this blueprint with other learners who are struggling with their conversational confidence. So thank you so much for being here.
Now, Anna, when I say the phrase small talk to my students, I usually get a physical reaction. People roll their eyes, they groan, or they just look completely panicked. Why is there so much universal hatred for small talk?
There's a massive misconception about what small talk actually is. Most language learners, and honestly, a lot of native-speaking introverts, view small talk as a complete waste of time. They think it's just a meaningless exchange of obvious facts.
Right. They think, why are we talking about the weather? We both know it's raining. We're both standing outside in the rain. Pointing out that it's wet is entirely redundant and illogical. Let's just talk about something deep and meaningful instead.
But that's the fundamental misunderstanding. Small talk isn't about exchanging factual information. It's not a data transfer. Small talk is a social trust exercise. It's a linguistic ping-pong match designed to establish safety and friendliness.
Think about it from an evolutionary perspective. When you meet a stranger, your brain subconsciously needs to know if this person is a friend or a threat. You can't just walk up to a stranger and ask them about their deepest childhood trauma or their political philosophy. That's highly aggressive.
It's way too intense. You need a safe, neutral buffer zone to test the waters. Small talk is that buffer zone. It allows two people to interact, share a rhythm, and establish a baseline of mutual respect without risking any emotional vulnerability.
When someone says to you, "Wow, it's really pouring out there today," they aren't actually asking for a meteorological report. They're extending a social olive branch. They're saying, "I acknowledge your presence. I am friendly, and I am willing to engage with you."
And your response is simply confirming that you're also friendly and willing to engage. It's a ritual. But for language learners, this ritual is terrifying because traditional English classes never actually teach you the real rules of the game.
Textbooks teach you one very specific, highly robotic script for small talk. The classic script goes exactly like this. Hello, how are you? I am fine, thank you. And you? I am also fine.
If you use that script in the real world, native speakers will instantly know you're translating from a textbook. Nobody actually speaks like that in a natural setting. It completely kills the conversational momentum. It's a conversational dead end.
So today, we're going to tear up that script. We're going to give you the actual phrases, frameworks, and exit strategies that native speakers use to navigate elevators, office break rooms, and party introductions.
Let's start with the opening serve, the greeting. When an American or a Brit walks past you in the hallway and says, "Hey, how's it going?" or "How are you doing?" they usually aren't stopping to hear your medical history.
This is a huge trap. A student hears, "How are you?" and they think they need to provide a genuine, detailed answer about their current emotional state or their headache. But in Western culture, "How are you?" is often just a synonym for hello.
Exactly. If we're walking past each other in the office, you just keep walking and toss back a simple, positive response. "Good, how are you?" "Pretty good, thanks." "Can't complain." Or my personal favorite, Surviving.
Surviving is a great one, especially on a Monday morning. It shows a little bit of humor and empathy. But notice that none of those responses are, I am fine. We rarely use the word fine unless we're actually upset and trying to hide it. If my friend asks how I am and I say, I'm fine, they're immediately going to ask me what's wrong.
The word fine is a conversational wall. It shuts things down. So stick to good, pretty good, not bad, or all right. And always, always bounce the ball back. That's the golden rule of small talk. You must return the serve.
Small talk dies when one person answers the question but doesn't ask a question in return. If I say, hey Anna, how was your weekend? And Anna just says, it was good, and then she stops talking.
That creates a terrible, awkward silence. Ben extended the olive branch, and I just snapped it in half and threw it on the ground. I forced him to do all the heavy lifting to keep the conversation alive.
You have to return the serve. It was good. I just relaxed at home. How about you? Did you get up to anything fun? You add one tiny detail about yourself, and then you immediately turn the spotlight back onto them.
Let's talk about adding that tiny detail, because that's the secret to moving past the generic greetings and actually sparking a real conversation. We call this giving them a hook.
A hook is a small piece of information that the other person can grab onto to ask a follow-up question. If someone asks how your weekend was, don't just say, good, give them a hook.
You could say, pretty good. I finally watched that new movie everyone's talking about. Or, not bad. I mostly just caught up on some sleep and read a book.
Now the other person has something to work with. They can say, oh, which movie did you watch? Or, what book are you reading right now? You've provided the fuel to keep the engine running smoothly.
But what if you're the one who has to initiate the conversation? What if you're stuck in an elevator with a coworker, or you're waiting for a meeting to start, and the silence is becoming unbearable? How do you find a topic?
This is where we introduce one of the most reliable frameworks in social psychology. It's an acronym called F.O.R.D. F.O.R.D. Family, Occupation, Recreation, Dreams.
These are the 4 safest, most universally accepted topics for small talk. Let's break them down, starting with F for family. Now, you have to be careful here. You don't want to pry into deeply personal issues. Keep it light and surface level.
Right. If you know the person has kids, asking about them is an absolute goldmine. People love talking about their kids. You can just ask, how are the kids doing? Or, are the kids excited for the summer holidays?
If they have a dog or a cat, that's even better. People will talk for 30 minutes about their pets. How's the new puppy settling in? It's safe, it's positive, and it shows you remember details about their life.
The O in F.O.R.D. stands for occupation. This is the classic, what do you do for a living? It's incredibly common in American culture to define yourself by your job, so it's a very standard opening question at a networking event or a party.
But we can do better than just asking, what do you do? That can feel a bit like an interrogation. You can ask things like, how's the new project coming along? Or, are you guys busy over in the marketing department right now?
If you're talking to someone outside of your company, you can ask, what's the most exciting part of your job right now? Or, how did you originally get into that industry? Those questions require more than a one-word answer, which takes the pressure off you to keep coming up with new topics.
Moving on to the R, recreation. This is usually the easiest and most fun category. What do people do when they aren't working? What are their hobbies?
The ultimate recreation question is simply, do you have any fun plans for the weekend? You can ask this on a Thursday or a Friday, and it almost always guarantees a good conversation.
And if it's Monday or Tuesday, you just flip it. Did you get up to anything fun over the weekend? It's foolproof.
You can also ask about sports, movies, or television shows. Have you seen any good shows on Netflix lately? That's a brilliant hook. It invites them to share their tastes, and if you've seen the same show, you instantly have 10 minutes of easy conversation.
If you're out here in California, asking about someone's weekend almost always leads to a conversation about the beach or a road trip. The weather dictates the recreation.
Exactly. Just like back in Colorado, if you ask someone about their weekend in January, you're almost guaranteed to end up talking about skiing or digging your car out of the snow. The local environment provides built-in small talk.
And that brings us to the D in the F.O.R.D framework, dreams. Now, this doesn't mean asking them about their literal sleep dreams or their deepest subconscious desires.
Please do not ask your coworker to interpret the weird dream you had about a giant spider. That is the opposite of safe small talk.
In this context, dreams refers to future plans, travel, or lighthearted aspirations. Do you have any vacations planned for this year? That's a fantastic small talk question.
Everyone loves talking about their upcoming vacation. If they say they're going to Italy, you're set. You can ask where in Italy, what food they're excited to try, if they've been there before. The conversation just drives itself.
So, family, occupation, recreation, dreams. If your mind goes completely blank, just mentally scan through the letters of F.O.R.D, and you'll easily find a lifeline to throw into the silence.
But what about the absolute baseline, the universal equalizer? If you don't know the person at all, you don't know if they have a family, you don't know what their job is, and you can't ask about their dreams yet, what do?
You look up at the sky. You talk about the weather. It sounds like a cliché, but discussing the weather is the ultimate safe zone. It's a shared reality that you both occupy in that exact moment.
It really is. You're standing at the bus stop, it's freezing cold. You turn to the person next to you and say, "Can you believe this wind? It's brutal today." You aren't asking for scientific data. You're creating camaraderie. You're bonding over a shared struggle.
And notice how Ben phrased that. He didn't say, "The weather is cold." He asked a rhetorical question. Can you believe this wind? Rhetorical questions are incredible tools for small talk. They don't require a factual answer. They just invite agreement.
The other person just has to nod, shiver a bit, and say, "I know, I can't wait for spring." Boom, you've established social harmony. You played the ping-pong match successfully.
The environment around you is always full of small talk prompts. If you're at a conference, talk about the venue. If you're at a party, compliment the food or the music. It smells amazing in here. Do you know what they're cooking?
Using situational observations takes the pressure off. You don't have to invent a brilliant topic out of thin air. You just comment on whatever is physically in front of both of you.
Okay, so we've covered the greetings, the hooks, the F.O.R.D technique, and environmental observations. But there is one final crucial piece of the small talk puzzle that learners almost always get wrong.
It's the exit strategy. Knowing how to start a conversation is important, but knowing how to politely end it is arguably more important for your social confidence.
So many learners get trapped in awkward conversations because they literally don't know the cultural scripts for walking away. They think they have to keep talking until the other person walks away first.
Or they do the exact opposite, and they just abruptly say goodbye and walk away in the middle of a silence, which comes across as incredibly rude and dismissive. You have to gracefully land the airplane.
The secret to a graceful exit is the pre-closing statement. You have to signal that the conversation is wrapping up before you actually say goodbye. You give the other person a few seconds to adjust to the transition.
And guess what we use to signal that transition? We use our favorite filler word from episode 1. We use the word well.
Yes, you stretch out the word well, usually accompanied by a physical cue like checking your watch, slapping your knees, or taking a slight step back. Well, it was really great catching up with you.
Well, I should probably get back to my desk. Or
Well, I'm going to go grab another cup of coffee, but it was great meeting you. The word well acts as the brake pedal. It slows the momentum down safely.
Another fantastic pre-closing phrase is, "I'll let you go." This is brilliant because it frames the exit as a favor you are doing for them. It implies that they are busy and important, and you don't want to monopolize their time.
Anyway, I know you've got a lot on your plate today, so I'll let you get back to it. Have a great weekend. It's polite, it's professional, and it provides a perfectly clean break.
You can also use a future-oriented statement. We should definitely grab lunch sometime soon. Or, I'll see you at the meeting on Thursday. It assures them that the relationship is intact, even though the current conversation is ending.
Let's put all of this together into a rapid-fire demonstration. Anna and I are going to role-play a quick, natural small talk exchange from start to finish. Let's say we're co-workers running into each other in the break room on a Friday afternoon.
Hey, Ben, how's it going?
Hey, Anna. Pretty good. Just trying to survive until 5 o'clock. You know how it is.
Oh, totally. It's been such a long week. Do you have any fun plans for the weekend?
Actually, yeah. I think I'm going to head up into the mountains for a quick hike on Saturday. The weather's supposed to be perfect. What about you?
Oh, that sounds amazing. I'm honestly just planning to relax, maybe catch up on some reading and do a little bit of gardening if the sun stays out.
Nice. That sounds really peaceful. Well, I should probably get back to my desk and finish these reports. Have a great weekend, Anna.
Thanks. You too. Enjoy the hike.
And scene. That entire exchange took maybe 30 seconds, but look at how many mechanics we used. We used the surviving greeting, we used the you-know filler phrase, Anna used the recreation hook from the F.O.R.D method.
Ben gave me a detail about his hike and immediately returned the serve by asking what I was doing. I mentioned gardening, and then Ben executed a perfect pre-closing statement using the word well and gave a clear reason for leaving.
It was flawless social ping pong. Nobody panicked, nobody felt interrogated, and we both walked away feeling positive about the interaction. That is the true power of effortless small talk.
It isn't about being the most fascinating person in the room. It's about being the most comfortable person in the room. When you're comfortable, the people around you feel comfortable too.
That brings us to your mission for episode 2. We want you to put the ping pong paddle in your hand and start serving.
Your homework for this week is the Return the Serve Challenge. We want you to actively engage in 3 separate instances of small talk this week. It could be with a coworker, a barista, or a neighbor.
But here is the absolute rule. When they ask you how you are or how your weekend was, you cannot give a one-word answer. You must give a tiny hook, and you must return the serve.
You have to ask a question back. Practice keeping the ball in the air for at least 3 exchanges before you use a pre-closing statement to exit gracefully.
Pay attention to how the other person's body language changes when you return the serve. They will physically relax because you're sharing the conversational load.
After you've completed your 3 interactions, come down into the comments section of this episode. Tell us how it felt. Tell us what your hook was and what question you asked in return.
Did you use the F.O.R.D method? Did you talk about the weather? Did you successfully use the word well to escape an awkward silence? Share your field reports with the community. We love reading about your real-world victories.
You're doing incredible work. You're taking the physical fluency you built in Module 2 and applying it to real human connection. You're building a massive social toolkit.
In our next episode, episode 3, we're going to dive into the nuances of opinions. We're going to talk about agreeing and disagreeing naturally.
We're going to show you how to politely disagree with someone without starting an argument and how to emphatically agree with someone to build deep rapport. It's going to be a crucial lesson for navigating professional environments and making strong friendships.
It's all about keeping the conversational engine running smoothly, even when there's friction on the road. You definitely won't want to miss it.
But for today, focus on the ping pong match. Give them a hook, return the serve, and never say, "I am fine," again.
I'm Ben.
And I'm Anna.
If you're ready to conquer your fear of small talk, please hit that like button and subscribe. Let's master the art of conversation together. Until next time, keep practicing, keep listening, and remember, learning English with us is
A piece of cake. Thanks for listening, everyone. See you next time on the English Chatcast. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the studio. You are tuning in to Episode 3 of Module 3 of the Blueprint for Effortless English. I'm your co-host, Ben.
And I'm Anna. Welcome back, everyone. We are moving right along through Module 3, the Conversational Engine. Over the last 2 episodes, we gave you the foundational tools for social survival. We talked about using filler words to sound natural, and we gave you the exact frameworks for navigating small talk without panicking.
The response to the small talk episode was incredible. Seeing you guys use the F.O.R.D method in your daily lives and finally escaping the trap of just saying, "I am fine," is exactly why we built this course. You are taking the physical skills from Module 2 and turning them into real human connections.
Today, we are taking the next step. Once you get past the small talk and start having deeper conversations with people, you are inevitably going to encounter a situation where you need to share your opinion. You are going to have to agree or disagree with the person sitting across from you.
And for a lot of English learners, that is a terrifying prospect. Disagreeing in a second language feels incredibly risky. You are worried about sounding rude, starting an argument, or accidentally insulting a native speaker.
So today, we are going to give you the exact conversational tools you need to navigate these situations perfectly. Today's topic is agreeing and disagreeing naturally.
Before we teach you how to argue politely, we have our usual quick favor to ask. If you are enjoying this 50-episode blueprint and building your conversational toolkit with us, please hit that like button and subscribe to the English Chatcast channel.
It is the absolute best way to help this community grow, and it pushes these lessons out to other learners who are stuck relying on robotic textbook phrases. Thanks so much for your support.
Let's start with the easy part, Anna. Let's talk about agreeing. You would think that agreeing with someone is the simplest thing in the world. You just say, "I agree," and move on.
Right. If you open a standard English textbook, it gives you a list of phrases for agreement. I agree with you. You are right. That is correct.
And while those phrases are grammatically flawless, they sound completely unnatural in a casual conversation. If my friend tells me that the new pizza place downtown is amazing, and I look at him and say, "I agree with you, that is correct," I sound like a robot confirming a data input.
It sounds so stiff. Native speakers rarely use the formal phrase, "I agree," in casual settings. It feels too academic. Instead, we use a wide variety of short, punchy phrases that not only confirm we share the same opinion, but also build emotional enthusiasm.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, totally. It is so simple, but it is incredibly effective. The word totally acts as an amplifier. You are not just saying yes, you are saying that your perspective aligns 100% with theirs.
If I say traffic was an absolute nightmare today, Anna just nods and says, "Yeah, totally." It is an instant bond.
Another incredibly common one is "for sure." This one is very relaxed. It has a slightly more casual vibe than "totally." You will hear this constantly, especially from younger native speakers.
That movie was way too long. Oh, for sure. It implies that the statement is so obviously true that it does not even need to be debated. For sure.
We also use the word absolutely all the time. This is a great one because it works in both casual and professional settings. If your boss says, "We need to focus on marketing this quarter," you can reply, "Absolutely." It projects confidence and alignment.
Now let's talk about a phrase that confuses a lot of non-native speakers because grammatically it sounds like a question. The phrase is, I know, right?
Oh, I use this one 10 times a day. I know, right?
It is the ultimate empathy phrase. When someone makes an observation about a shared experience, especially a mildly frustrating or surprising one, saying, I know, right, tells them that you feel the exact same way.
Let's say we are standing in a massive line at the grocery store. Ben turns to me and says, "They really need to open another register." I reply, "I know, right?" I am agreeing with his frustration.
Notice the intonation there. It goes up at the end, exactly like a real question. I know, right? You are asking the other person to confirm the shared emotional reality.
Another highly native way to agree is to praise the other person's thought process. Instead of saying, "I agree," you compliment the point they just made. You can say, "That is a great point," or "You hit the nail on the head."
You hit the nail on the head is a fantastic idiom. It means they described the situation perfectly. If someone analyzes a complex problem at work and summarizes it beautifully, you say, "Wow, you hit the nail on the head." It makes them feel incredibly validated.
I was just going to say that. This is brilliant for building rapport. It implies that your brains are on the exact same wavelength.
This restaurant is a little too loud. Oh my gosh, I was just gonna say that. We are crushing the gonna contraction there, of course. I was just gonna say that. It is pure conversational magic.
So, replacing the robotic "I agree" with these natural phrases will instantly make your English sound more authentic. But agreeing is the easy part. It is safe. The real challenge, the part where the conversational engine usually breaks down for learners, is disagreeing.
Disagreeing is a social minefield. In many cultures, directly disagreeing with someone is considered highly offensive, and even in Western cultures, doing it wrong can instantly destroy the rapport you worked so hard to build during the small talk phase.
The biggest mistake learners make is translating their native language directly into the English phrase, "I disagree."
I disagree is an incredibly harsh phrase in spoken English. It is a brick wall. If you tell someone, I disagree, their brain immediately goes into defensive mode. They feel attacked, and the conversation turns into a battle.
Same goes for saying, "You are wrong." Unless you are arguing with your absolute best friend or a sibling, you should almost never say, "You are wrong" in English. It is too direct. It is aggressive.
So, how do native speakers disagree? How do we tell someone they are wrong without making them angry? We use a technique called softening. We use verbal cushions to absorb the impact of the disagreement.
The absolute best strategy for this is the yes but method. Before you introduce your opposing opinion, you must first validate the other person's opinion. You have to show them that you heard them and you respect their perspective.
Let's look at a practical example. Let us say Anna and I are planning a team lunch for our podcast crew. Anna says, I think we should get sushi for lunch today.
No, I disagree. I do not like sushi. Let us get burgers.
If I say that, Anna feels rejected. But if I use the yes but method, I soften the blow. I say, I see what you mean, but I actually think burgers might be easier for everyone.
I see what you mean, but... That is the magic phrase. It acknowledges my desire for sushi, it validates my thought process, and then the word but pivots the conversation toward his preference.
You can also use, that is a good point, however.
That is a good point, however, not everyone eats seafood. It is so much more polite than just saying no.
Let's escalate the situation a bit. What if you completely disagree with a fundamental concept someone is presenting, maybe in a business meeting? You cannot just say, "That is a terrible idea."
Right. You need a stronger cushion. A great native phrase for this is, "I hear you, but I look at it a bit differently."
Listen to how diplomatic that is. I hear you. It means I am listening. I am paying attention to your words. But I look at it a bit differently. It takes the blame away from the other person's bad idea and frames the disagreement as just a difference in perspective.
Let's try another one. Someone says, "The marketing campaign was a total failure." If you think it was a success, you could say, "I am not so sure about that."
I am not so sure about that. It introduces doubt without making a direct accusation. It opens the door for a debate rather than slamming the door in their face.
And remember episode 1 of this module? We talked about using the filler word actually to soften a correction. This is exactly where you use it.
Yes, actually is the ultimate disagreement cushion. Someone says, "We need to spend more money on ads." You say, "Actually, I think we need to focus on the product first." The word actually magically transforms the disagreement into a helpful alternative suggestion.
I see what you mean, but that is a good point. However, I hear you, but I look at it a bit differently. I am not so sure about that. And simply starting your sentence with the word actually.
If you use these cushions, you can disagree with anyone, even your boss, and still sound incredibly polite and professional. It shows emotional intelligence.
But what happens when the disagreement gets stuck? What happens when you use your cushions, you present your argument, they present their argument, and neither of you is willing to change your mind?
This happens all the time, especially when discussing subjective things like movies, music, or food. The conversation starts to loop, and it can start to feel a little bit tense. You need an exit strategy.
You need to know how to stop the debate before it turns into an actual argument. In English, we have a few brilliant phrases designed specifically to defuse the tension and move on.
The most classic phrase is, "Let's agree to disagree."
It is perfect. Let's agree to disagree. It acknowledges the stalemate. It says, we are not going to solve this. We hold two different opinions, and that is completely fine. It closes the topic with mutual respect.
You can also say, "Fair enough." I use this one constantly. If someone makes a point that I still disagree with, but I understand their logic and I am tired of arguing, I just say, "Fair enough."
Fair enough basically means I accept your right to have that opinion even though I do not share it. It is the ultimate white flag of conversational surrender.
And if you want to transition back to neutral territory, you can combine these. You say, "Fair enough, let's agree to disagree. Anyway, what were we talking about before?" You use the word "anyway" to pivot the topic completely.
We will actually be doing a deep dive into how to change the topic smoothly in episode 7, but anyway is your best friend for escaping a dead-end debate.
Now, I want to talk about a cultural nuance here, because disagreeing style varies wildly depending on where you are in the English-speaking world.
Oh, this is fascinating. The rules change depending on the geography.
Absolutely. Here in California, and generally across the United States, we rely very heavily on the softening cushions we just taught you. American culture values outward friendliness and consensus in casual settings. Direct conflict makes people uncomfortable.
Right. Even back in Colorado, if you just bluntly say no to someone, it is considered pretty rude. We like to beat around the bush a little bit. We use a lot of filler words to pad our disagreements.
However, if you are working in certain parts of the East Coast, like New York, or if you are dealing with British business culture, the rules can be a bit different. They might be slightly more direct with their disagreements.
But even in London or New York, the underlying principle of softening still applies. They might use different phrases like, with all due respect, but the concept of cushioning the blow is universal in fluent English.
Exactly. The goal is always to separate the idea from the person. You are disagreeing with the concept, not attacking the human being. The yes, but method ensures you maintain that separation.
Let's do a quick role play to put all of this into action. Let us demonstrate how a native speaker navigates a disagreement without breaking rapport. Anna, let us argue about something low stakes. Let us argue about coffee.
You know, I really think the coffee from that new cafe down the street is way better than the stuff we make here in the studio.
I see what you mean. Their presentation is great, but I actually think our studio coffee is much stronger. The stuff from the cafe tastes a bit watered down to me.
Really? I am not so sure about that. I feel like the beans they use are just higher quality. It has a much smoother finish.
That is a fair point. They definitely use premium beans. I hear you, but I look at it a bit differently. For me, a good cup of coffee needs a really bold, bitter kick to wake me up.
Fair enough. Let's agree to disagree. You can have your bitter studio coffee, and I will keep buying my smooth cafe lattes.
For sure. Anyway, we should probably get back to recording.
And scene! That was a masterclass in polite disagreement. Let's break down what just happened.
Anna started by stating a strong opinion. Instead of saying, "You are wrong," I used a cushion. I said, "I see what you mean," to validate her point about the cafe. Then I used the word "actually" to introduce my opposing view about the studio coffee being stronger.
When it was my turn, I didn't say, "I disagree." I used the phrase, "I am not so sure about that." It introduces doubt smoothly. Then I backed up my opinion with my point about the premium beans.
Then I used another massive cushion. I said, "That is a fair point." I complimented her logic. Then I used, "I hear you, but I look at it a bit differently," to explain my personal preference for bitter coffee.
At that point, it was obvious we were not going to change each other's minds about our coffee preferences, so I deployed the exit strategy. I said, "Fair enough, let's agree to disagree."
And I confirmed the exit with our agreement phrase, "for sure," and then used "anyway" to transition back to the task at hand. Nobody got angry, nobody felt insulted, and the conversational engine never stalled.
When you master these phrases, you unlock a massive new level of freedom in English. You stop hiding your true opinions just because you are afraid of saying the wrong thing. You can finally participate fully in debates and discussions.
It is incredibly empowering. You move from being a passive listener to being an active, respected participant in the culture.
Which brings us to your mission for Episode 3. We want you to practice deploying these cushions in the real world.
Your homework for this week is the Yes But Challenge. Over the next few days, I want you to intentionally disagree with someone. It could be a coworker, a friend, or even a native speaker online.
But you must follow the rules of engagement. You cannot use the words no, wrong, or disagree. You must use the yes but method.
I see what you mean. That is a good point.
Then use the word but or however to introduce your opposing perspective. Pay close attention to how they react. Notice how the cushion prevents them from getting defensive. They will actually listen to your point much more openly because you respected theirs first.
After you have successfully executed the Yes But Challenge, come down to the comments section of this episode. Tell us the story. What was the topic you disagreed on? What exact cushion phrase did you use?
We want to see how you are applying these tools in your actual lives. The comments section is basically our digital classroom, and learning from each other's experiences is invaluable.
You are doing brilliant work. You have mastered filler words, you have conquered small talk, and now you know how to navigate disagreements like a diplomat. Your social toolkit is getting heavy.
In our next episode, Episode 4, we are going to talk about the most powerful tool for driving a conversation forward. We are going to talk about asking better questions.
We are going to move beyond the basic who, what, when, where, and why. We will show you how to ask open-ended questions that unlock fascinating answers and make people love talking to you. It is the secret to becoming a charismatic communicator.
It is going to completely change how you approach networking and making friends. You absolutely will not want to miss it.
But for today, go find a low-stakes argument. Deploy your cushions. Agree to disagree.
I'm Anna.
And I'm Ben.
If you feel more confident about sharing your opinions today, please hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. Keep the conversation flowing. Until next time, keep practicing, keep listening, and remember, learning English with us is
A piece of cake. Thanks for listening, everyone. See you next time on the English Chatcast. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the studio. You're tuning in to Episode 4 of Module 3 of the Blueprint for Effortless English. I'm your co-host, Ben.
And I'm Anna. Welcome back, everyone. We are charging through our Conversational Engine module, and I am so excited for today's topic.
In Episode 3, we gave you the ultimate diplomatic tool belt. We showed you how to navigate tricky disagreements using the yes-but method. We taught you how to soften your opinions with words like actually and however, and how to use the phrase fair enough to gracefully exit a debate.
You guys really took that lesson to heart. We've been reading your field reports in the comments, and it's amazing to see you intentionally leaning into those low-stakes arguments instead of running away from them. That's how you build confidence.
But today, we're flipping the script. Up until now, we focused heavily on what you are saying, how you present your thoughts, your opinions, and your small talk. Today, we're going to show you how to take the spotlight off yourself and put it entirely on the person you're talking to. Today's topic is asking better questions.
Before we dive into the psychology of a great question, we've got our usual small favor to ask. If you're enjoying this 50-episode journey and you're getting value out of our conversational toolkit, please hit that like button and subscribe to the English Chatcast channel.
It's the best way to support the show, and it helps the algorithm push this content to other learners who are struggling to make native-speaking friends. Thanks for being here with us.
Now, Ben, let's talk about the magical superpower of asking questions. For an English learner, asking a good question is the ultimate conversational hack.
It really is a cheat code. When you're speaking a second language, you naturally feel a lot of pressure to perform. You feel like you have to constantly generate perfectly grammatical sentences to keep the conversation alive. It's exhausting.
But when you ask a truly great question, you completely remove that pressure. You pass the microphone to the other person, they get to do all the heavy lifting, they do all the talking, and you get to relax, listen, and mentally prepare for your next response.
And the best part is, human beings absolutely love talking about themselves. Psychology studies have shown that when people talk about their own experiences and opinions, the pleasure centers of their brains light up.
Exactly. If you ask someone a great question and let them talk for 5 minutes, they'll walk away from the conversation thinking you are the most charismatic, fascinating person they've ever met, even if you only spoke for 30 seconds.
But here's the catch. Not all questions are created equal. Most English learners rely on what we call closed questions. This is the fastest way to kill a conversation.
Let's define that. A closed question is any question that can be answered with a simple yes or a no. Do you like your job? Yes. Did you watch the game last night? No. Are you from California? Yes.
These questions are conversational dead ends. They give the other person an immediate exit. If I ask you, "Did you have a good weekend?" and you say yes, where do I go from there? I have to instantly invent another question to keep the silence away. It turns the conversation into a police interrogation.
Right. Question, answer, question, answer. It feels unnatural and stressful for both people. Native speakers naturally avoid closed questions in casual settings. Instead, we use open-ended questions.
An open-ended question is impossible to answer with just a yes or a no. It requires the listener to elaborate, to tell a story, or to explain their feelings. It opens the door and invites them inside.
The standard open questions begin with the classic WH words: who, what, where, when, why, and how. But even with these words, learners sometimes stumble into closed question territory.
For example, asking, "When did you move here?" is technically an open question, but the answer is still just a short fact. 2 years ago. It doesn't spark a deep conversation.
So, we want to teach you a specific framework for generating deeply open questions. We call it the T.E.D framework. T.E.D. Tell me, explain, and describe.
Let's break down the T.E.D framework, starting with the letter T. Tell me. This is such a powerful conversational opener. It's actually a command disguised as a friendly invitation.
Instead of asking, "Was your vacation fun?" you say, "Tell me about your vacation to Hawaii." The phrase, "tell me about," gives them a blank canvas. They can talk about the flight, the food, the hotel, the weather. They get to choose the direction of the story.
You can use this for anything. Tell me about your new project at work. Tell me about your dog. Tell me about how you met your wife. It's an incredibly warm, native-sounding phrase.
Moving on to the letter E. Explain. This is fantastic when you're talking about someone's hobbies, their job, or their opinions. It appeals to their expertise. People love feeling like an expert.
If someone says they work in software development, don't ask, "Is your job hard?" Ask, "Can you explain what a typical day looks like for you?" Or, "Explain to me how that new app actually works."
When you say, "explain to me," you're willingly taking the position of the student and elevating them to the position of the teacher. It's incredibly flattering. It shows genuine curiosity.
And finally, the letter D in the T.E.D framework stands for describe. This is a brilliant tool for tapping into someone's emotions and sensory experiences.
Instead of asking, "Do you like living in Colorado?" Ben, how would you ask that using the word describe?
I would say, describe what it's like waking up in the mountains every day. That question completely changes the vibe. I'm not asking for a factual yes or no, I'm asking for a feeling.
Describe the atmosphere at that concert you went to. Describe the craziest thing that happened on your road trip. It forces the speaker to paint a picture with their words.
Tell me, explain, describe. If you start wrapping your questions in these 3 words, your conversations will instantly become 10 times deeper and more engaging.
Now, let's talk about a very specific type of question that native speakers use to build deep emotional connections. We call these hypothetical questions.
Oh, hypotheticals are the absolute best. A hypothetical question asks the person to imagine a fake scenario and tell you how they would react. It completely removes the pressure of talking about their real, stressful lives.
These are amazing for parties, networking events, or when you're just grabbing coffee with a coworker and you're tired of talking about spreadsheets.
A classic hypothetical starts with the phrase, "if you could." If you could live anywhere in the world for 1 year, where would it be?
Or, if you had to eat one meal for the rest of your life, what would you choose? These questions are playful. They show that you're creative and fun to be around.
Notice the grammar we're using there. We're using the second conditional. If you could, if you had to. We're talking about an unreal situation in the present or future. But don't stress about the grammar rules right now. Just memorize the chunks. If you could, what would you do if?
What would you do if you won the lottery tomorrow? That single question can fuel a 30-minute conversation. It reveals their values, their dreams, and their sense of humor. It's a massive upgrade from, "Do you like your job?"
Another powerful questioning technique is what we call the emotional pivot. A lot of times, learners will ask a factual question, get a factual answer, and then the conversation dies.
Right. You ask, "How long have you been working here?" They say, 5 years. Silence. You hit a wall.
To avoid that wall, you have to pivot from the factual to the emotional. You follow up their fact with a question about how they feel about that fact.
They say, "I've been working here for 5 years." You pivot and ask, "Wow, what's been the most challenging part of the job over that time?" Or, "What's kept you here for so long?"
You take the raw data and you ask for the human experience behind it. What was the hardest part about moving to a new city? What's your favorite thing about being a parent? What was the most surprising thing about traveling to Japan?
Using words like hardest, favorite, most surprising, or most challenging forces the speaker to evaluate their emotions. It guarantees a deeply personal and interesting response.
But we also have to talk about cultural boundaries. While asking questions is great, there are certain topics that are considered off-limits in casual English conversations, especially with people you don't know very well.
This is a crucial cultural lesson. In some cultures, asking about someone's age, their salary, or their rent is completely normal small talk. But in American and British culture, asking direct financial or highly personal questions can make people extremely uncomfortable.
It's considered very rude to ask someone, "How much money do you make?" or "How much did you pay for your house?" Even asking someone their exact age can be a bit of a landmine, depending on the context.
We also generally avoid asking people why they aren't married yet or when they're going to have children. Those are highly sensitive personal choices. Stick to the F.O.R.D method we taught you in episode 2. Family, occupation, recreation, dreams.
Keep your questions focused on their hobbies, their opinions on pop culture, their travel experiences, and their general thoughts on their career. Keep it positive and forward-looking.
Let's demonstrate all of this with a role play. We're going to show you 2 versions of a conversation. The first version is going to be the typical closed question interrogation that English learners often get trapped in.
I'll be the learner, and I'll bombard Anna with closed yes or no questions. Notice how awkward and disjointed this feels.
Ready when you are.
Hi, Anna. Did you have a good weekend?
Yes, I did.
Did you go to the beach?
No, I didn't. I stayed home.
Do you like staying home?
Yes, it's relaxing.
Are you tired today?
A little bit, yeah.
Okay.
And scene. That was painful. Ben was doing all the work, constantly searching his brain for the next question, and I was giving him absolutely nothing to work with because his questions were so restrictive.
It felt like pulling teeth. Now, let's rewind and do it again. This time, I'm going to use the T.E.D framework, an emotional pivot, and an open-ended WH question. Let's see how much smoother it flows.
Take 2.
Hey, Anna. Tell me about your weekend. Did you get up to anything fun?
Oh, it was pretty low-key. I actually spent the whole weekend trying to bake sourdough bread from scratch. It was kind of a disaster, honestly.
Oh, wow.
Baking bread from scratch sounds intense. What was the hardest part about the process?
Definitely the yeast. I couldn't get the temperature right, so the dough just didn't rise at all. It came out of the oven looking like a hockey puck.
Oh no, that's hilarious. Well, if you had to bake something else next weekend to redeem yourself, what would you try to make?
Probably just chocolate chip cookies. It's really hard to mess those up, right?
And scene. Look at the difference. By simply asking, "Tell me about your weekend," I gave Anna the runway to tell a funny story about baking bread.
And instead of just saying, "That's too bad," Ben used an emotional pivot. He asked, "What was the hardest part?" That forced me to explain the exact problem I had with the yeast.
And then I capped it off with a hypothetical question. If you had to bake something else, what would you make? We created a fun, engaging 2-minute conversation, and I barely had to say anything at all.
That is the power of asking better questions. It turns you into a conversational conductor. You aren't playing all the instruments, you're just guiding the orchestra.
It takes the pressure off your grammar, it makes the other person feel valued, and it creates genuine human connection. It's the ultimate tool in your social toolkit.
Which brings us to your mission for episode 4. We want you to test out the TED framework in the real world.
Your homework for this week is the open-ended challenge. In your next 3 English conversations, whether it's at work, at a coffee shop, or chatting with a friend online, you are completely banned from asking yes or no questions.
Tell me about your day. Explain your favorite restaurant in the city.
Pay attention to how the other person responds. Notice how much longer their answers are, and notice how much less pressure you feel to keep coming up with new topics. Let them guide the flow.
After you've completed your challenge, come down into the comments section. Tell us which of the TED words you used, and tell us the most interesting answer you received. We love reading your field reports.
You guys are building some serious conversational momentum. You know how to start the engine with small talk, you know how to navigate the bumps with polite disagreement, and now you know how to steer the car with great questions.
But what happens when they answer your great question and you need to respond? In our next episode, episode 5, we're going to talk about the art of the follow-up.
We're going to show you how to use active listening phrases, how to validate their stories, and how to seamlessly link their experiences back to your own. It's the secret sauce for building deep rapport.
It's the perfect companion to today's lesson, and you won't want to miss it.
But for today, focus on passing the microphone. Use the TED framework. Ask an emotional pivot. Let them do the talking.
I'm Anna.
And I'm Ben.
If you're excited to start asking better questions, please hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. Keep passing the microphone.
Until next time, keep practicing, keep listening, and remember, learning English with us is
a piece of cake. Thanks for listening, everyone. See you next time on the English Chatcast.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the studio. You are tuning in to Episode 5 of Module 3 of the Blueprint for Effortless English. I am your co-host, Ben.
And I am Anna. Welcome back, everyone. We have officially hit the halfway mark of Module 3, which means we are exactly halfway through the entire 50-episode blueprint. It is a massive milestone.
It really is. And the timing is perfect, because today we are tackling the exact moment where most English learners completely freeze up in a conversation. We are talking about the awkward silence that happens right after someone finishes answering your question.
In Episode 4, we gave you the tools to avoid that silence. We taught you the TED framework: tell me, explain, describe. We showed you how to pass the microphone and ask open-ended questions that get native speakers talking for minutes at a time.
But here is the problem. Eventually, they're going to finish talking. They're going to reach the end of their story. The microphone is going to pass back to you, and you have to know exactly what to do with it. Today, we are mastering the art of the follow-up.
Before we dive into the psychology of active listening and follow-up statements, we have our usual quick favor to ask. If you are celebrating the halfway point of this course with us and you want to support the English Chatcast, please hit that like button and subscribe to the channel.
Your support is the engine that keeps this podcast running. It helps us reach more students who are stuck on the intermediate plateau. So thank you for being a part of this amazing community.
Now, Ben, let us talk about that terrifying moment of silence. A student uses the T.E.D framework. They ask a native speaker, "Tell me about your trip to London." The native speaker tells a beautiful 3-minute story about visiting the British Museum and eating fish and chips.
And then they stop. They look at the student, and the student panics. The student usually does one of two things. They either say, "Oh, that is nice," and then stare blankly, or they completely change the topic and ask an unrelated question, like, "Do you like sports?"
Both of those reactions instantly kill the conversational momentum. Saying that is nice makes you sound like a robot who just finished processing data, and changing the topic makes the other person feel like you were not even listening to their story.
The missing ingredient is the follow-up. The follow-up is how you prove to the other person that you were actively engaged in their story, that you absorbed the emotional weight of what they said, and that you want to keep exploring the topic together.
To master the follow-up, we have broken it down into a 4-step framework. Step 1 actually happens while the other person is still speaking. We call it back-channeling, or active listening noises.
This is a massive cultural difference that trips up a lot of learners. In many cultures, listening respectfully means being completely silent and perfectly still while the other person talks. Making any noise is considered an interruption.
But in American and British culture, if you sit perfectly still and silent while I am telling a story, I am going to think you are ignoring me, or I am going to think the video call froze. I need constant verbal confirmation that you are still with me.
Yeah. Right. Totally. Exactly. Wow.
If they say something surprising, you say, "No way," or "You are kidding." These are not interruptions. They are the rhythmic drum beats in the background of their song. They give the speaker energy and encourage them to keep going.
You have to practice this physical habit. Next time you are listening to someone speak English, force yourself to nod and say, every 10 seconds. It feels exaggerated at first, but to a native speaker, it just feels like deep empathy.
Once they finish their story, you move to step 2 of the framework, the validation statement. You cannot just jump into a new question. You have to validate the emotion of the story they just told.
A validation statement is a short phrase that identifies how the other person must have felt. You are essentially holding up an emotional mirror.
Let us say a coworker tells you a stressful story about their computer crashing and deleting a massive presentation right before a deadline. You do not just say, "Oh no." You validate the specific emotion. You say, "Wow, that sounds incredibly stressful."
Or you could say, "I cannot even imagine how frustrating that must have been." Or, "That makes total sense why you were so exhausted today." You're explicitly naming the emotion: stressful, frustrating, exhausted.
When you name the emotion, the other person feels deeply understood. They feel like you are on their team. This is the ultimate rapport builder. People will instantly like you if you validate their feelings.
Let us look at a positive example. A friend tells you they just got a promotion at work. Your validation statement should match their excitement. You say, "That is absolutely amazing. You must be so proud of yourself."
Notice how Ben said, "You must be." That is a fantastic formula for a validation statement. You must be thrilled. You must be exhausted. You must be so relieved. It shows that you are putting yourself in their shoes.
Once you have validated their emotion, the conversation is safe. You have built the bridge. Now you can move to step 3. Step 3 is the easiest, most effective conversational trick in the English language. We call it the echo.
The echo is brilliant because it requires zero original vocabulary from you. You literally just take the last 2 or 3 words the person said and you repeat them back as a question.
It sounds too simple to work, but it is basically a psychological cheat code. If someone says, "My flight was delayed by 6 hours, so I ended up sleeping on the airport floor," you simply echo the most dramatic part. You say, "The airport floor?"
And then you pause. The speaker will immediately start filling the silence with more details. They will say, "Yes, the floor. It was freezing, and I had to use my backpack as a pillow."
You can do this with almost anything. Someone says, "I grew up in a tiny town with only 300 people." You echo, "300 people?" And they will launch into a story about what it is like going to a school with only 10 kids.
The echo works because it proves you were listening to the exact details of their sentence, and it highlights the most interesting part of their story as an invitation for them to elaborate. It is a follow-up question that writes itself.
So, you have back-channeled while they spoke, you validated their emotion when they finished, and you used the echo to get them to reveal a few more details. Now it is time for step 4, the final piece of the follow-up.
Step 4 is the relatable link. This is where you finally bring yourself back into the conversation. You take the core theme of their story and you link it to a brief, relevant experience of your own.
The key word here is brief. A lot of people mess this up and become what we call conversation thieves. A conversation thief is someone who listens to your story and then immediately steals the spotlight to tell a longer, better story about themselves.
We all know someone like this. You tell them you just started running and you ran 3 miles, and they immediately say, "Oh, I ran a marathon last year. Let me tell you all about my training schedule." They completely dismiss your achievement.
It makes the other person feel invisible. So when you use a relatable link, you have to use the boomerang technique. You share your brief experience, and then you immediately throw the boomerang back to them with a new question.
Let us go back to the airport floor example. Your friend tells you they slept on the freezing airport floor. You validated it, you echoed it, now you provide the link.
That is brutal. I had a similar experience when I got stranded in Chicago a few years ago. The airport chairs are impossible to sleep on. Did you even manage to get any sleep at all, or were you just awake all night?
Look at the structure of that link. Ben acknowledged the theme, which is getting stranded at an airport. He shared his one-sentence story about Chicago to prove he relates to the pain. But he did not start telling a 10-minute story about Chicago. He threw the boomerang right back to his friend with a follow-up question.
Did you manage to get any sleep? That keeps the spotlight on the original speaker, but it deepens the connection because now we share a common miserable experience.
Let us look at a positive example of the boomerang technique. Suppose someone tells you they are trying to learn how to play the guitar, but their fingers hurt from pressing the strings.
Your validation statement is, "Oh man, building up those calluses is the hardest part." Your relatable link is, "I tried learning the bass a few years ago, and I gave up after a month because my hands were so sore." And then the boomerang question. Are you taking lessons, or are you just teaching yourself from YouTube videos?
It is a perfect conversational loop. Validation, link, boomerang question. It makes the conversation feel incredibly balanced. It is not an interrogation, and it is not a monologue. It is a dance.
Let us demonstrate this entire 4-step framework in real time. Anna and I are going to do a role play. I am going to tell Anna a story about a recent hiking trip back in Colorado. Anna is going to use back-channeling, validation, the echo, and a relatable link with a boomerang question.
All right, I am ready. Hit me with the story.
So, last weekend, I decided to drive up to the mountains to do this hike I have been wanting to do all summer. The weather forecast looked totally clear, so I just packed a light jacket and some water.
Right.
But about 2 miles up the trail, the temperature suddenly dropped, like a massive drop. The sky turned completely black, and out of nowhere, it just started hailing. Massive chunks of ice.
No way.
Yeah, it was crazy. There were no trees for cover, so I basically had to hide under this tiny rock ledge for 45 minutes while the hail just hammered the ground around me. I was completely freezing.
Under a rock ledge?
Literally just a rock sticking out of the dirt. I had to curl up into a ball just to keep my head from getting hit.
Wow, Ben, that sounds absolutely terrifying. You must have been so relieved when it finally stopped.
Oh, totally. I basically ran back down the mountain the second the sun came out.
I can completely relate to that panic. I got caught in a massive flash flood warning while driving through the desert out here in California a few years ago, and this sudden change in weather is just so disorienting. Did that experience make you want to start carrying more emergency gear in your backpack?
And scene. That was absolutely textbook. Anna executed every single step flawlessly.
Let us break it down for the listeners. While Ben was talking, I was back-channeling. I used words like right and no way to encourage him to keep telling the story.
Then she deployed the echo. I mentioned hiding under a tiny rock ledge, and she just repeated it back to me. Under a rock ledge? That invited me to add more color to the story, so I explained how I had to curl up into a ball.
After the story reached its natural conclusion, I validated the emotion. I said, "That sounds absolutely terrifying, and you must have been so relieved." I named the exact feelings he was describing.
Then she hit me with the relatable link. She briefly mentioned a sudden weather change she experienced in the desert in California. She proved that she understood the specific fear of unpredictable weather.
But I did not steal the spotlight. I did not spend 5 minutes talking about the California desert. I immediately threw the boomerang back to Ben with a highly specific follow-up question. I asked if the experience changed how he packs his emergency gear.
Which is a brilliant question, because it seamlessly transitions the conversation from a story about the past into a discussion about present habits. The engine just keeps running, smoother than ever.
When you use this framework, you become the kind of person that everyone wants to talk to. You become a conversational magnet. People will seek you out at parties and in the office because you make them feel incredibly interesting and completely understood.
And the best part is that it requires very little heavy lifting on your part. You do not need to memorize a dictionary to be a great conversationalist. You just need to master the art of the follow-up.
Which brings us to your mission for Episode 5. We want you to practice the easiest and most effective tool we taught you today.
Your homework for this week is the Echo Challenge. Over the next 3 days, in any conversation you have, whether it is in English or your native language, I want you to intentionally use the echo technique at least 3 times.
When someone finishes a sentence, take the most interesting 2 or 3 words they said and repeat them back as a question. Just say the words, raise your intonation, and then embrace the silence.
Watch what happens. Watch how quickly the other person jumps in to fill the silence with more details. It feels like magic the first time you do it successfully.
After you have deployed the echo 3 times, come down into the comments section of this episode. Give us a field report, tell us the exact words you echoed, and tell us how the other person reacted.
We love seeing your conversational victories. You guys are building a set of skills that will absolutely transform your social and professional lives.
We have covered so much ground today.
We tackled back-channeling, validation, echoing, and the boomerang technique. Your conversational engine is officially purring.
But what happens when the road gets a little bit bumpy? What happens when you are in a group setting? Everyone is talking at once, and you cannot even get a word in to ask a follow-up question.
That is exactly what we are covering in our next episode. In episode 6, we are talking about navigating interruptions. We are going to show you how to politely interrupt a native speaker who is talking too much, and how to defend your own turn to speak when someone tries to cut you off.
It is all about conversational assertiveness, and it is a crucial skill for business meetings and large social gatherings. You definitely will not want to miss it.
But for today, focus on being the best listener in the room. Validate their emotions, echo their words, and always throw the boomerang back.
I am Ben.
And I am Anna.
If you learned a new way to keep your conversations flowing today, please hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. Let us keep building that toolkit. Until next time, keep practicing, keep listening, and remember, learning English with us is
A piece of cake. Thanks for listening, everyone. See you next time on the English Chatcast.